why we are giving these, we are developing these tools and we are giving it for free for developers. Okay, so for next 1 hour, let's take out that part, like why is he trying to talk about this, right? Let's take out that part and completely focus on this SDK, right? Okay, so develop once and deploy to multiple platforms. If you see today, this is not a new graph again, right? Platforms, there are so many different platforms and they are still growing. And the market is also growing heavily every quarter and quarter. You see the number of devices that are coming up with multiple platforms, it's increasing like anything, right? Now, when it goes beyond, like when you have more and more platforms in the market, right? Everybody, whoever is coming up with their platforms, they have their own native development environments or development technologies, right? Here are some of the examples, like Xcode is there, Visual Studio is there, and of course you have Android, right? All of them, in other words, you are living in a walled garden. You will have to develop applications with their technology. The code that is you have written in Xcode now cannot be directly ported to a Java, right? So for a developer, right? For a developer who want to support multiple platforms, he needs to now go ahead and learn multiple technologies. For organization also the same problem. If I want to have my application running on more than one platform, today it is quite difficult because first of all, you need to have those skilled resources. If you train somebody, you never know he's going to retain. I mean, he's going to be there in your organization for a longer period of time, right? So there are a lot of challenges around it. So, but the research says apps with multiple platforms, where apps with the apps that are there in multiple platforms makes more money than targeting one platform. You can be passionate about a particular technology. You can say, I love Android, I know how Android is done. You dig deeper into it, it's fine, no issues, right? But if you are here to make money, that means you need to span beyond your single platform that you are in. Okay? So that's what it is saying. And this is not a new story, right? How many of us here are like maybe 8 plus years of experience in IT? Right? Maybe you all would agree to me that the trend what we are seeing in mobile platform is exactly the same that we saw sometime back between Windows application and the web technologies. Correct? When I joined to my first job, I was a web. If I was, I'm connected to web, right? That's why maybe I'm talking about HTML5 here. So I joined as a web developer, and I used to see those people who develop like VB applications, C++, MSC application as like somewhere here, and from the technology wise also. Somewhere we used to think like HTML, you have very less access to native capabilities, so we used to live like this. And that gap is gradually came closer, and it now pretty much whatever was an unimaginary thing for a web technology have become a more common feature in the web technology today. Right? You can do video calling, you can do remoting kind of functionalities. Everything is possible because of the evolution of various frameworks that came in, and also the evolution of HTML or HTML standards. Right? Browsers became more and more competent. Right? They gave more and more functionalities which you can go ahead and implement. Of course, browser war still remains, right? Something works here, something doesn't work on other browsers. That's okay. We have frameworks. So many frameworks. jQuery came in, Mobilizer, Modernizer came in. So many different frameworks started helping us in that, right? So that's why if you want to target multiple platforms, right? Going with web and web-related technology, web, JavaScript or whatever, right? That's the way to go, right? And there are arguments always, even with respect to hybrid application versus native applications versus web applications, web apps, right? We should call it apps today. Native capabilities, of course, yes. If you have some level of native capabilities, or if you have too frequent access, if you have an app which has too frequent access to some device level capabilities, you may still go to native application development today. So, quote in quotes, that's what today we need to go to native, and it is evolving, right? So, where it is going, all these different platforms support HTML5. It's not just like a browser. They support you to embed HTML5 content within a container and deploy it as an app into your app store. And that container can have access to the underlying APIs. So there's a bridge that people are building today. It just started maybe with a simple camera bridge, maybe a contact bridge, right? We all know PhoneGap and Cordova and other things, right? Now you can do a lot more things than just those two APIs. You can have access to local storage and so many things, right? It's all exposed, and there is a layer that is built in between which can do this kind of job, right? So it is always, if you today if you have too frequent access to the native capabilities from a HTML5, your app may not be that fast, right? But tomorrow it is going to come. Like as I said, history is repeating, right? People will start moving into these cross-platform applications, not only because of it, since we don't have enough skills or anything like that. From the cost perspective, also from the organization, right? If you want to develop, you have so many developers of JavaScript and HTML5 in the world today. How many of you have heard of Node.js? Lot of, right? What is the syntax they use? It's all JavaScript syntax, correct? Because one of the argument is that there are a lot of developers who already know JavaScript syntax, and it becomes easy for them to move to Node.js. Windows 8 have introduced WinJS with Windows 8 app development, which is a JavaScript framework. So everybody is moving towards that. And if you are here in this room today, you have made the right choice. Okay? Now, let's talk about a little bit about what is the difference between a web app and a hybrid app, right? So, web app actually runs within a browser, any browser of your phone, Android phone or whatever phone, right? The smartphone, with a frameless container. If your browser have capabilities to go to the native functionalities, then probably that is available for your app. But in general, browsers will have a limited capabilities to go to the deeper level of APIs in your platform. Whereas hybrid have an advantage of that. What happens in hybrid environment is, so when you have a hybrid app, so you have hybrid extensions, and there is a native web view which is built just below your HTML5 layer. And all your JavaScript APIs have a capability to connect to this extension, and this guy now able to connect downwards. He can go up and access any of the native capabilities that is exposed. So of course all your metadata information, right, what you define in manifest, the permissions, everything you still need to declare. You are not going away from that. But once you declare, you don't have to develop applications with you develop your UI or your basic UI navigation kind of functionalities with your native code. You can do all of them with a simple, because HTML5 and JavaScript development is always simple. You can do it with HTML5 and JavaScript. Whenever you need a native capability, you make a call to the native API, and it will go deeper into the native level, and it will get to the data or the processing that you need. Right? So this is what I was talking about, what is today and what is going to be the tomorrow of these hybrid apps. You can read it yourself, right? There are significant improvement is going to be there. It's already there. I don't know how many of you attended Tizen session that we had yesterday by Samsung, right? So Tizen is building complete platform based on HTML5 and JavaScript. Okay, so that's what as I said, that's the future. Okay, people cannot continue to learn new technologies just to support multiple platforms. Correct? So this just shows the difference between different browsers, right? This is your desktop browser. You see here, there is no device access to desktop browser. And if you see this one, this is again a mobile browser. Even in mobile browser also, you don't have any access to device capabilities. However, if you have a native web view, that is a hybrid approach, right? You can get access to device capabilities through the APIs that are exposed at the hybrid layer level. Okay, with that background, we will get into Intel XDK. So first and foremost, we have two versions right now, Intel XDK. One is a live version, which is a pretty stable version, and it can be downloaded as a Chrome plugin. If you go to Chrome store and search for Intel XDK, you will be able to download that. Right? That's a very basic kind of, in terms of designing. You can still do simulation and other things with that particular tool, but the designing aspect, what I was showing in the keynote the other day, right? That aspect is not that user-friendly as much as it is there in the new version. So new version is in preview. That means not even alpha, not even beta. Right? It's in preview version. We just want you guys to play around with it, and maybe by first quarter next year or something, we'll have a stable version coming in on Windows, Mac, and for all the other platforms as well. So we are going to come up with that. So today in this session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the new version. Okay. The reason I highlighted that it's a free version is that there may be crashes. Okay. So you got to be you don't have to get it completely discouraged by looking at the crashes, because it is still in the testing mode. Once it stabilizes, you will be able to use it in the production environment. Okay. So now, primarily we target three important aspects of development: develop an application, debug and test on multiple form factors and multiple environments. Okay. Then finally deploy to multiple platforms. So that means you are having one single code base, and we will give the package to multiple platforms. Okay. Let's look at these verticals one by one. The first one is develop. Okay. In develop, what we have is that we have an HTML editor. We will have a complete demo of all these functionalities, by the way. Right. So this is the complete editor that you have, and an app UI designer. You can drag and drop controls and completely build your UI. An app framework, which is completely optimized JS library that we have, which is optimized to run best on all the platforms. I mean, mobile platforms primarily. Right? And also it knows how to, depending on the target that you are deploying. Yesterday in booth, someone asked this question: if I build an application with some blue background or something like that, in some platforms it may not look native, right? It looks like a web page, right? So that sometimes switches off the minds of the customers, right? So this app framework has a built-in capability wherein you just design your screens and you can go ahead and say how it should look on each of those platforms, different platforms. So in emulation also, when you keep changing the platforms, right, it automatically shows how it is going to look like in that particular platform. I'm going to show that as well. An app game interface. So there are two major challenges for any of the app developers, of game developers, HTML5 game developers. One is a very, very poor frame rate, right? So the refresh rate, because the image or whatever the sprites that you have in the game should be quick enough to have a realistic feel for the developers or for the consumers, right, or customers. So that problem is there. That's inherent problem with HTML5. The other thing is multi-channel sound support. You cannot play like parallelly. You cannot play multiple sounds with HTML5. Then what happens is, like, if there is, let's say you have a car game and if there is an accident, right, and if two people are shouting, there is a two separate audio you need to play simultaneously. It becomes too difficult for you to do that. You may have some workarounds to do that, but it's too complicated. What we have done is, for these two major problems, what we have done is, in our layer, what we built is that you as a developer, you will be executing your commands against the HTML5 canvas, but internally what we do, when it goes to the presentation layer, right, all those game related or the image related things, we will redirect it into OpenGL interface. So actually your game is playing in an OpenGL space, but only the text and other things will be playing in a web view. So there are actually two layers that comes up if you are using a game interface. Secondly, the MODS13 physics engine, right? That's a quite commonly used physics engine today. It is in C++ and all, right? So we have built a layer, okay, which is going to play a number of channel of sounds, depending on memory, how much memory you can provide for your app, right? It can simultaneously play those multiple sounds without any issues. And the HTML5 editor, what we are using is based on the brackets framework, which is like, it's a well-known editor, which helps you to do the code completion and code highlighting and stuff like that. So it's quite easy and well-known thing in the market. The one thing I didn't cover here is the app portal, and I don't have slides or presentation for that today here. So app portal is one tool which helps you convert all your iOS code into HTML5 and JavaScript code. So the porting is done up to 60 to 70% of your code is ported, and remaining it will clearly tell you where you have to go and fix the APIs to make it completely workable. Okay, so that's what the app portal tool, that's again a free tool that is available. You can go out and download, and I'm not covering that in today's session. So app framework, it's an optimized JS library, as I said just now. All your basic HTML5 based like CSS3 selectors and all of them are supported. Okay, let's see how the tool looks like. Okay, this is the new XDK we have, which is again available for free to download. And the one that I have here is our older XDK, which is again a Chrome plugin. So once you install the Chrome plugin, you will get an icon here at the corner there. Okay, and if you with that you will be able to launch pretty much what you can do here with Intel XDK, right? The new XDK, you can do the same thing. Only thing that you can't do is that you can't use the app designer and drop and redesign the whole UI in the more visual fashion. But if you already have a code which is HTML, maybe you have a website or you have a website with some games, right? And you want to use it or package it using this XDK, or if you want to put it in and try different form factors, how it looks, how my game looks on different form factors. If you want to do all those things, all you have to do is just go here, download your content, or you can zip it. There needs to have some index file and all in the zip file, right? Just upload it. It creates a basic file structure for you, and you can start playing with this. And this also has the same cloud-based build system using which you can build your platform-specific packages. Okay. So if my XDK continuously crashes for any reason, I'll come back here and continue with my demo. Okay. Otherwise, I'll try to stick here. Now, so when I create a new, so we'll try and create the similar UI as part of our demo today. Okay. So let me start with a new application. So when I go to new applications, I have multiple options. Right? I can start with a demo. There are some basic demos that are available. I can go ahead and start with those demos. The images are not yet loading. Okay, it's coming up. You have these geolocation related demos and many demos like that. You can just select that and you can add your code on top of it. Right? The basic things will be ready with that demo and you can modify according to that. The second is you can import your existing project. If you already have a project and if you want to reuse that here and build on top of it, you can do that. I don't want anything. In cases of, I already have an app in HTML5, right, which is running as a website today, and I want to use that code and start my application directly. This is the option for you. Okay. Here I'm going to use App Designer. I need to specify a location where I want to do this. I call some now because I have practiced so much, right? So there are so many numbers already. So let me go ahead and create. So it created a basic HTML page and some images. It's just one image, just to show the background. Now all you have to do is, like, if I double click on that, right? And if I click on this App Designer here, it's going to open an option for you to select. We are actually giving 3 frameworks right now, which is like App Framework, Twitter Bootstrap, or jQuery Mobile. What it ultimately does is it will go ahead and refer those corresponding JS and CSS files for your project, right? So if I say this, so it shows how it is going to look like. And you are free to go ahead and make your changes to those CSS. If you want, according to your UI, right? You are free to go ahead and change anything in that CSS and JavaScript library. So this is your jQuery Mobile. So now I will start with maybe Bootstrap. It looks a little colorful, right? We'll start with that. Okay. Now this is the primary pane that you get, where you need to drag and drop controls. All you can do is, like, you can even do how it looks. Earlier, right, we used to do it with browser, increase the size and stretch it in different ways. You can do that whole thing here itself. You don't have to depend on any browser for that. Or I can go ahead and preset the values, like for phone or maybe for tablets. There are some presetting, and if you want to start your application with the landscape mode or portrait mode, you are free to do that as well. Then you have all these controls, like header, footers, and there are so many controls that you can see here, right? So whatever controls that you drag and drop from this designer are only going to be editable in the app designer. If, for example, I go to the backend, right, and I'll go ahead and create a div tag here, that won't be editable in the app designer. App designer supports only those things that are created by app designer, because we need to have certain classes on the tags. Only then it will understand what it is creating. Now let's go and have a header. Now for this header, I will say XDK demo. Okay, and this pane here allows you to create those corresponding CSS files. See, I can do CSS for showing and hiding the this particular control, or I can change background through creating those things, or I can go ahead and create a new style and say what is the size. Okay, so this actually, as soon as you select and when you change, right, it's going to change the values accordingly. You'll notice that it's changing, right? So those kind of styles. So whatever you define the styles, right, it keeps creating the styles specific to your applications as an index_CSS file. Okay, so now whenever I make changes at any level, right, if let's say I created a font based style and I used it in multiple controls, I can go ahead and make changes at any level, but what it internally does is it will go ahead and change the CSS rather than changing anything at that control level. If you want a specific change at the control level, you will have to explicitly go and create one more style and attach it to that control. Okay. So first thing is done. Now let's go ahead and add some controls. I'll put input controls. So I want to call them like username, password, right? So I'll go back here. Say username, and I want to position it this way. I don't want the controls to come on next to each other. And let me go ahead and have some styles to this. This time I'll have a control text. Control text style. Okay. Now let's change the font size. Default whatever was there, I took that. I can change colors if I want, or I'll live with the formatting at the moment. Right? You can go ahead and do whatever kind of formatting you like. Then I will go to the other control, and I don't want this placeholder text to coming in, so let me get rid of that. I'll go here. This is my password. Okay. Same position I need to do. Remove this. Now this time I don't have to define that style sheet. It's already defined. I want to apply the same style sheet again. Okay. So the same style sheet is applied. Now I want to have a couple of buttons here. Before that, there is one. As soon as I created this, you see this, what do you call it, breadcrumb or something. So it is showing where is your controls. Right? It says it is within the column and a row and a column and so many things. Now I want to reposition it, or I want to create one more column here. Right? All I can do is I can just drag in, drop this column here. Okay. Now I can go ahead and put some buttons. Okay. Now I will continue to do it. It's quite simple to do it, right? So I'll go ahead and do it. Create a login and put some icon maybe. Okay, and style it differently. Same thing for this guy. It's like cancel. Dangerous. Okay. Now, there is one interesting control. How many of you have LinkedIn app? So there is a slide bar that comes up, right? The similar kind of thing you can build with this control. All I have to do is just drag and drop that control. Okay. Now I can go to this slide bar properties. Here I'll say push. That means it will push the content. It is like that, exactly like how it is there in the thing. In the LinkedIn. Now how do I can even say initially open or swipeable, or I can make it open based on certain clicks. If you want to, on a click of a button you want to open it and close it, all those functionalities are there. You can download and play around with that. Okay, the next thing is, let me go ahead and put a list box here, because I wanted to show something specific around it. So this again, you can control what you want to show within the list box. I'll go ahead. Now, so interesting aspect of the whole XDK, right? So today, as I was talking in the keynote, right, yesterday, developing a responsive design is very much key to be successful in multiple form factors, correct? And that's exactly what we have implemented in a visual fashion, right? You can visually edit completely you can edit the UI to meet the responsive design that you would be looking at. What we will do is, like, first of all, we need to set a wrap point, right? You may have different form factors. If it is a phone, I want to wrap it maybe at 320 pixels. If it is something else, or maybe a tablet, I want to maybe go to 480 pixels. Right? Basically, the width aspect of it. Now I'll go ahead and set it for phone, right? So if you notice this, as soon as I move just below this 320 pixel, right? It's wrapping down that content automatically. Okay. Now let me just move it a little ahead. So it wraps after that. I can have multiple wrap points also. When it goes below, I mean, if it is in tablet mode, if it is a tablet, or if you are building for Ultrabook, right? You have enough space. So at that time you want to show bigger content or more content. Then when it goes smaller and smaller, you want to hide some of the contents and create a very minimal set of controls and things like that. So you can have multiple wrap points. The other interesting thing is, like, from here your UX designer may say that I don't like it to come, the buttons, I don't like it to come down, rather I want it to go up or above the controls, right? You can define that as well. Go to that row or here, go to that row, properties, here it will say wrap from there, wrap from right. Now see how it behaves. Can do this. So the buttons went up. So you have all these wrap points set. Now you can even say when it becomes too small, showing that list box may be an okay. So I don't want to have that list box when it goes below a certain level. So that's what I'll do. I'll select this and go to properties. Now here I'm defining media queries for show and hide. Show hide. Okay. Now what I do, I have an option to say media. This is media query here, right? I'll go if it is less than 359 pixels. Then go ahead and say like this. That's the style that is applied. If you go and look at in the CSS file, there is a media query created for this particular style with these parameters. Now I'll do this. Now as soon as I go below this, it's gone. Right? This is with respect to the development. Right? Now let's assume this UI is ready. I'm ready to test this. Correct? Of course, I can go to editor. Whatever I have done so far, it created the whole code here. Now I'm free to go ahead and use any of my JS libraries. Okay, I can go ahead and use. There may be conflicts in some of the JS libraries because we are also trying to get the dollar star or something like that, and even something else. Some other APIs may also get that. In such situations, only you design the UI. And once the UI is ready, then you switch to that particular thing and then start testing. So that once that control goes off, then the designer cannot go ahead and make any changes to it. Okay? This is a code. Here you write whatever the kind of code that you like. And there is one thing that we need to set to make it work perfectly fine on all the viewports is I need to set a viewport here, correct? So set this viewport, correct, so that it scales properly in all the devices, all the form factors. And another thing is there is an API that I can go ahead and set. If I want to say that my app should always use this width and height, right, at this viewport, in other words, I can go ahead and say use viewport 300 by 600, something like that, depending on your UI. Once this is done, now it's ready to emulate. Okay, let's hide this. So, what all I can do with emulator? Okay, here I can do all these standard things that we do. Like as soon as you can observe that, as soon as I change it to portrait mode, the list box is coming back. So my media query is working fine. Okay, same thing. I can go ahead and select from the list of different form factors that we have in the market today. So that means what is it doing is like it is a huge cost saving for the organizations, and also it is going to improve the customer satisfaction. The people who download your app is going to be more happier because you will not have a cramped UI or something like that, just because you are not able to test with that particular platform or the device. See, I will go ahead and select the iPad, and I can zoom in and see how it looks on multiple different devices. Okay, then I can go to K900, the same thing. And what else? How do I debug? This is your Node WebKit debugger, which is available with Chrome also, correct? This is not new. So you do all your debugging, whatever you like, correct? So all those debugging is supported here. So it is saying that I instead of saying use viewport, I said user viewport looks like. So I'll have to fix that, correct? So I'll come back here. Save it. back to emulation. Okay, now it looks a little bigger than what it was showing before because it didn't apply that viewport at all. Okay, so that's your debugging. Now how about live updates? Because you want to give updates to your app very frequent, correct? So what I can do is, after reboot, I want to show a message. I need update. Okay, and similarly, I'll show this one first, maybe. Notify user. Okay, send update. See, we can simulate. So when it goes to the actual device, from your hosted services, right? When you push this message, this is going to be popped up to the user. Okay. Now same way, I have other options like notify the app or notify the specific user. So that notify the app means you need to take care of that. You need to automatically update something, or there is an update available, right? It's a trigger basically. If there is an update available, you can go ahead and download. Now that's about geolocation, and if you want to explicitly trigger any of these events, because in case of native, you have those event handlers, right, to handle those back button clicks and other things. Here you don't have, so that's why we are explicitly giving those capabilities. You just select back button and fire. It's going to fire that back button event on this particular page. Now we are done with simulation also, correct? Now how do I test it? Okay, once my development is done, I need to push it to my central system, which is a cloud-based system. Once it goes to the cloud-based system, there is this barcode, right? I have a barcode reader here. Let me see whether it reads this. Okay, so through that barcode reader, it gives me a link to my cloud-based application. So I have AppLab in my machine, so it is trying to open that right now. Depending on speed, okay, closed up. But what happens is, like, it goes to the actual, when it goes to my cloud location, it loads that application in the container exactly how it does when it goes real live. Right? It puts it into that container, and you will be able to test the application in the real world scenario. Not only that, how do you do remote debugging today? You dump all the console output and then you read that whether there was an error or anything like that. That's the current scenario, correct? But what you can do with this tool is that you just copy this piece of code, put it into your HTML page, and when you go to remote debugging, when you start remote debugging, right? Or you can, if your connection is quite fast, you can do debugging on-device debugging from this XDK itself. You can go next, and step into, step out, all those things you can do from the XDK itself. Again, the debugger is same NodeKeeper debugger. Okay. They can't load. So right now I don't have anything connected, but as soon as there are multiple, if you can have multiple devices. So it shows all the devices here. You just click on that, go to console. It's going to show you the console outputs from that actual device. Also, it will show you the elements and all your debugging, everything. Okay. And finally, build. I have all my apps. I mean, all my applications which are ready. I have tested everything. It's ready to be built on multiple systems. Now I'll choose Android. So in Android, you need to have some APK keys or something like that, right? Or at least in Windows 8, we have that. They will give you the publisher ID or the product ID. So in the build system, and there are some specifications on what kind of images that you have to upload, 30 by 30 or 50 by 50 kind of images, right? All those information this build server is going to collect. With all those information, it is going to create an APK file for you. So for example, in Android space, right? So it is asking what is the name of your application, and here it is asking what kind of API. So depending on this, it is going to add those permissions into manifest file. So I don't have any in-app purchases. I'll remove this. If you are using Cordova or geolocation through Cordova, right, you might have to enable these. Okay, depending on the kind of features that you enable, right, you can choose what kind of code base that you want. If it is a gold code base, which is like you have full control, like you can have box 2D support, game support, or any kind of support that is provided by XDK, right? All of them you can put it into one package. One issue is your download file size goes up to 15 MB. For a simple app like what I developed, doesn't make sense to have a 15 MB download, right? People who wouldn't be interested in downloading such a big file. So what they will do, they will go off, I mean, you can go ahead and have a lean module, which doesn't have this screaming barcode or any of those code over support or anything. It's lightweight. So still it will have like 1 MB, within 1.5 MB, right? Because we need to have that runtime shift along with each APK. So it will have minimum, I think minimum size is around 1.5 MB or even below that. Then of course you need to upload all those images, whatever you have to, right? There are so many images that your icons and all you upload. Once everything is done, you go here. Then you go ahead and build app now. Okay, it starts the build. It will create an APK file for you and it will be available for you to download. But go here. So I've downloaded a few. I can show you the samples here. Okay, so the APKs are like, you can see that code over support I had one example which was around 6 MB, correct? And the one which is the leanest one is that with what I use with app framework, which is like about 1 MB. This is 6 MB is 1 MB and depends on what source code or what code base that you are selecting. The size can be different. Okay. Now that is done. Now I'll go ahead and download this. So while it is happening, this is what I have done yesterday. So let me see if I can load that. So even I can send this APK to some of my friends, right? I just have to give the name of the email IDs of them, to send it. They will be able to download and test it on their device. Okay, so not this one. Meanwhile, if there are any questions, I can take it down. Yes. That's HTML. I mean, you have full control on that. Sorry. Software.intel.com. Yes. Everything is the whole app store is like we are only giving you the content, right? I mean, in the sense like we are only giving you the package. It's your responsibility to finally go and deploy it into your own app stores, right? Okay. Its support is there. I mean, you need to have a very strong network because the exchange can happen only through that.
So it creates a wrapper around your code.
Exactly. Yes.
So what if we need to add more functionality? We cannot add.
You can add plugins. You can build your plugin, and at the time of packaging, there is an option. So there is a plugins option. You can go ahead and add your own plugins.
Plugin will be
so adding native support is through plugins. If I want some component of my app to use the native code and the major chunk to be HTML5, I can have a plugin and combine that.
And do you also build Android jars, library jar?
That's plugin, right? Ultimately, you can build it as a plugin and use it. We don't build anything as a jar. Only APK is what we build. Yeah.
For the new codes in the emulator, how can I add them? Is there any way you can support, like, say for the new phone, I have this emulator, like, kind of extension, and I want to import into XDK.
Okay. At present, addition of plugins are not provided. So I mean, emulators are not provided. Whatever we also keep on adding with the new versions.
Any support for set chart as well?
No. And by the way, I think ultimately they will boil down to HTML. I mean, HTML5 and JavaScript only.
No, I was just curious about how different it is from IBM Mocklet.
Okay. So I have no clue how that comes.
Essentially, it's like a boot, right?
So probably we can see how it works later. So based on that, I'll be able to tell you what's the difference.
Is there any way that
Club, yes. Testing you finish here, right? Correct. Yeah. Yes. For everything it is available.
So, like if I have to generate the IP file, so at what time I have to use the introduction
Yeah.
code or because I want to build
Which one?
if I generate code IP file, like I have,
Okay.
where I have to where I have to select that in the development mode.
See, in the you go to final package is what you are talking about, right? The packaging is done here only. You can see here. I can build it for all these. I can go iOS production. It creates everything and it will give you a downloadable.
How is the database connectivity? If I have persistent layer, where is it?
It is through. I think I guess Cordova has that capability, right? Local support, local.
How that will be regulated?
How do I access code data and create data?
One second. You had, database support, right? So Cordova have some capabilities. The same capability you have to use. Any specific, you may not be able to use SQLite or something like that, right? That support in our app framework, I don't think it is there.
Does your emulator support all these things?
Huh?
Code data on iOS, how do we create
OData?
code
Data.
Does your emulator support all these coded plugins and those code we add, or is it just for HTML5?
This is HTML5 stuff only, because the plugins ultimately need to run in the actual device, right? So that support is not there.
So the emulator is basically probably a WebKit engine?
Yes, not okay.
is there any kind of automation that I can write and run on multiple emulators from within the SDK, something like Selenium? Is there
Right.
support for that?
Right now, automation support is not there. You will have to do it manually.
We generally build it like, right? But here first test.
Exactly. So when you see what we do is like as I said in the test, it deploys to my machine here, right? So, the actual device, right? What it does is like instead of creating the APK, it creates the whole thing in a central location, and depending on from which device you are trying to open it, right? It opens that app in the container of that particular device. So it is a real-time testing, and you don't have to build for that. Once everything is fine, you go final, build it and deploy.
So that means we have these server side clouds requirements.
Exactly. So that's what I showed you. Right. So that's what I showed you here, right? It was syncing to test server.
But in test server, you have devices and
No. Test server is just a code repository. So here, there is an app called AppLab. So there is an app called AppLab. Okay? If you use this AppLab, you need to log in. You need to create your account there. When you log in, right, you will be able to go ahead and launch your app from here. It looks like you are opening a browser application, but actually it puts the whole code into the actual runtime, and then it will run from there. Exactly. For every platform that we are supporting, there is an app. If the app is closed, you need to have. Okay, you are talking about those notification kind of services, is it? There is this push notification, but I don't know whether it's exactly same as what you are mentioning.
I'm thinking like I can have an app which shows the geolocation or something, and I can have a service which always collects the data, but it cannot give the data to the UI so that?
You can. I mean, you
Can
get
close that?
close the app. It won't. It should be in a running mode, right? No.
I can have some services on it.
Service kind of. That's what I was telling, right? You don't have a service kind of model with this.
By the way, what does that service tab do?
Which one? Okay, services tab is like it's. In fact, originally we bought it from AppMobi 2 years back, and we enhanced it to this level right now. So AppMobi has some of the services. Like if you want to have a push notification services, they are seamlessly connected now. From this app, it takes the necessary parameters and configures the push notification to mapping. So you have like live update or store view and in-app purchase and all those things are now supported in that. You are free to go ahead and use this. I mean, free in the sense you can go ahead and use this. Whatever charges applied from them, it will be applied to you. Okay, but it's not something that Intel is promoting or anything. It's there. If you want to use it, you can go ahead and use it.
Can I add my own services?
Yeah, you can call your services. No issues. You have all the Ajax or support.
Can I add to this and
This
make it
list?
as a library for me?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
While developing for iPhone, we use some provisioning profiles. It has the device ID. This is to test the app within the developer groups. I mean, it is in the distribution level, inside the QA team or inside the developer team. So how can we inject that profile?
You don't have to, right? Because now all your devices needs to have that app lab installed. App lab is not the your app is not at live. People cannot see it. Only within your organization people can see through this app lab. They will launch it with the same container. How it's going to look at finally, right? And also you have email option. You can send it to your own known people only, right? Once everything is stable, and you don't have to share this password also, right? You secure that password so that other people won't log into your service and do that kind of testing. Once everything is done, then you go ahead and push it. You don't have to depend on device ID and things like that.
What's the timeline for this to come to enterprises so that they can go ahead and start doing POC service?
I think it is somewhere around Q1 next year. Yeah.
It will build the package according to OS, like Android. Can you go to build tab? If I click on Android build, it will create APK.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. iOS format also.
All these things, whatever is the final, it's ready to deploy. Package is going. What it's going to give you.
Where exactly it will create? It will create in home that project directory.
No. It will create in the your cloud service and it will allow you to download. You put it wherever you like. Okay. The biggest challenge is that. Correct, but this we are talking about cross-platform, so you cannot go specifics again. Right? So that's it. Okay, thank you.